So it is my great pleasure to introduce our district governor, Price Finley. But first, a few words about Mr. Finley. He is a fellow Rotarian of mine with the Upper Arlington Club, where he joined in 2005. And since that time, he's served on pretty much every committee in our club. He's been a member of the board of directors, a chair of the fundraiser committee. He served on the district conference planning committee for our past district governor, Steve Sandbo. He was club president in 2013, 2014, and I could go on. An integral member also of our World Community Service Committee, which I'll talk about in a minute. At the district level, he got involved in Larry's role, where'd you go, Larry? As the foundation chair. That was 2016, and he did such a good job, he got to do it for 4 years. During that time, the district's giving to the annual fund and the Polio Plus Fund were at or near record levels every year. He's been involved in the planning and coordination of pre-pets, contributed to the All Ohio Pets, in which 5 districts get together. He is a member of the Paul Harris Society, a major donor to the Rotary Foundation, and has been a member of the 125 Club every year since its inception in 2015. As our club's chair of the World Community Service Committee, Price has been heavily involved in our efforts in Guatemala. We partner with an organization, a nonprofit named Natun Guatemala in the Lake Atitlan region, which is such a dichotomy, an amazingly beautiful place and an amazingly poor place. Price has visited Guatemala multiple times, taken his kids and I think wife as well. And we would encourage all of you to join us next year as we make that trip again. Since 2011, since we started that, our district, our club, other clubs, and individual Rotarians have donated over $1 million, much due to Price's leadership, as well as others. We had an international global grant in 2013 where we founded trade schools for carpentry and sewing and computer skills and so many other things along with the district. Fire trucks you may be familiar with, water projects, and on and on. Outside of that, Price has attended 3 Rotary conventions, Lisbon, Atlanta, and Houston, and is planning to attend Melbourne next June. In 2017, our club awarded Price with its Service Above Self Award, and in the same year, he also received the Rotary Foundation Citation for Meritorious Service. He received a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science from Capital, was a 4-year letter winner in football, and received an MBA and a law degree from Ohio State. Whatever. I'm a big fan, but it doesn't go that far. In his professional life, Price has been a lawyer with Bricker and Eckler downtown for 30 years. He's experienced in all areas of public finance, helping communities finance critical infrastructure improvements. He has extensive experience in the use of various economic development tools and in representing local governments and developers. He's a member of the Association of Bond Lawyers, Council of Development Finance Agencies, currently serving on their board and executive committee. Other economic development and finance trade associations, and an active member in First Community Church. He is listed as one of the best lawyers in America, although I don't have any proof of that. And he's received the CDFA Ohio Financing Roundtable Excellence Award for Leadership in 2014. Price has an amazing wife, Alice Finley, who serves as the executive director of the Upper Arlington Education Foundation and has two very creative sons, Reese, who is a songwriter, and Perry, who is a filmmaker and a college student. And they both live in Columbus. Please help me welcome Price Finley.
Thank you. I think Ned made up about half of the stuff in that bio, but he did a really nice job, didn't he? I have to be nice to Ned. Ned was president immediately after I completed my year as president of the Upper Arlington Rotary Club, and so Ned had all the cleanup work to do after I finished. David Ohl finds himself in a similar position following me next year as governor, but it's a reminder that, and I have to be nice to Ned also because I recruited Ned to be an assistant governor, and I never had the opportunity to serve in that role. I know Sandy has, if you've served in as assistant governor in the past, would you raise your hand? Sandy, Steve, Larry, anybody else? That's one of the best, Sandy, I think you would agree with me, one of the best roles to have in Rotary District service, to actually work closely with a handful of clubs, helping them succeed. And so I have to be nice to Ned because he might resign on me if I'm not, if I don't take it easy. But he's doing a great job. Great to be with this club today. I want to acknowledge just a couple of additional people in the room that have already done great things in district service. I'm going to start with Tom Carlisi, who is our Peace Committee chair. And Tom does a fabulous job pouring his heart and soul into that work. Obviously, it comes from the heart, and we are just so grateful, Tom, for your service to the district. I don't think Luke is here today. I didn't see Luke in the room, Luke McCormick. So we've got three past district governors here in this club. Luke, of course, my good friend Steve Heiser. Steve and I not only share the same vocation, but we also live about, a quarter mile from each other and share the same interests in our community and in district service. And then, last but certainly not least, I had the opportunity a couple of months ago to spend some time with Nelson, and I am just blown away by all the things that he accomplished in his years as not only president of this club, but then also as district governor. And it's just been a delight to get to know you, Nelson. Thank you for your service. You know, when you think about Rotary, I think a lot of us join Rotary because we want to serve our communities. But then, what keeps us in Rotary? For me, it's the relationships. It's the relationships that I've built with the members of my own club, with all of the people that I've had the opportunity to serve with at the district level, and then just being part of this club for various occasions, getting to know Dana, my little busy bee over here, has just been so rewarding. I've enjoyed so much, and I forgot to mention that you were district trainer before you stepped into the role as club president. But for me, it's the relationships that keep me going in Rotary. Don't get me wrong, the service is at the foundation of what I certainly get out of my Rotary experience. But it's all of these relationships. I know so many of you in the room on a personal basis, and that's just extremely rewarding to me. You know, our theme this year is Imagine Rotary. It's right here on the on the banner. By the way, I visited another club, and they had the banner kind of hanging from the podium like this, but they had it hung a little higher, and it was like this, and you could see the theme real well, but I said, you got a problem with your banner, you need to hang it a little bit lower so you can see the names at the top of the banner. I meant Jennifer, of course. Jennifer Jones, our president this year. But you know, our theme, Imagine Rotary, it's a great theme. It's maybe a little bit hard to conceptualize what it means when we say Imagine Rotary. It can evoke a lot of responses. You know, last year, the theme, Amanda's not here today, but her theme was Serve to Change Lives. And when I was club president, and Steve, you were club president at the same time, it was Engage Rotary, Change Lives. And those are themes that, you know, really kind of tie to our concept of service to our communities. And now we come along with this Imagine Rotary theme. And it's kind of out there, right? But I love it because I feel like it calls us to imagine what we can do in Rotary, and then to take that next important step to be people of action, to take action and to make those dreams a reality. I want to spend just a couple of minutes talking about some things that you don't have to imagine. You don't have to imagine a young mom in Guatemala named Graciela, who was not able to learn to read and write when she was in school. In fact, probably only got a first or second grade education. But because of a program, she was able to learn sewing and needlepoint skill to such a level that she's now going to be able to sell her products and provide for her family. You don't have to imagine that. You don't have to imagine that just last year there were only 6 cases of wild polio virus worldwide. You do not have to imagine that. You don't have to imagine moms living in villages in Malawi who are able to walk to a well in their own village and operate a hand pump and extract clean drinking water out of the ground that they can take back to their home and provide safe, clean drinking water to their families. You don't have to imagine that. You don't have to imagine an elementary school, Windsor STEM Elementary School, that has received a commercial washer and dryer, where the kids have received Chromebooks to help them in their educational pursuits. You do not have to imagine that. You don't have to imagine any of these things because someone in Rotary did and then took action to make it happen. As Ned said during the introduction, our club and several other clubs have worked together in the Western Highlands of Guatemala for over a decade now to help improve the lives of people in need. And these are indigenous Mayan population that live there and they're just living a hardscrabble life, trying to provide a means for their children to succeed. And the trade school that Ned mentioned that teaches carpentry, sewing, and computer skills allowed Graciela, who I actually got to meet when I was in Guatemala just over a week ago at her graduation from the needlepoint class, where she's now able to make these beautiful designs that are going to be marketed on handbags and other items to provide a monetary source of income. That's because of a global grant that the Upper Arlington Rotary Club applied for, and then with district designated funds and the World Fund match was able to take on a $75,000 project that made a big difference. We all know the story about Jonas Salk. We all know about what happened after that effort to the progression of the oral vaccine for polio. Some of us know, and if you were at the Pies and Pints for Polio last week, someone said I talked too long, but I don't know. Give me the microphone, right? But we talked about Rotary's work in polio for over 40 years, starting in 1979 in the Philippines and advancing to today, where there are just 2 countries that are endemic to polio now. And that's because of Rotary's commitment and its investment of over $2.6 billion over that period of time to work toward administering vaccines. We have donuts outside that were put up for sale last Monday, and we call them purple pinky donuts, and that's because when you go into a village and you administer the oral polio vaccine, they're doing it so quickly that they dip the child's left pinky in a purple dye to indicate that they've received those precious 2 drops of the oral vaccine. That's Rotary's commitment to ending polio, and we're going to see that through. About 10 years ago, a member of the Sunbury-Galena Rotary Club discovered a professor at Ohio State who had developed a higher efficiency, deeper water well that could be operated by hand and extract water at levels where existing pumps were not able to go, and had a much more reliable track record for service. And that year, the Sunbury-Galena Club sponsored 1 well in Haiti to provide a village with some access to clean drinking water. Fast forward to just this past year, we're still closing this out, a project in Malawi where 20 villages in Malawi have received these life pumps, as they're called, to have clean drinking water right in their own villages. 26 clubs in our district, including this one, supported that effort to make it happen. That was a $306,000 grant to provide those 20 wells. All of the installation, the education, the maintenance is covered by this grant, because that's what Rotary does. When we go into a community and we provide assistance, we don't want to just go in and drop dollars and then walk away. We want to make sure that our solutions are sustainable. And that's one of the really big features of our Rotary Foundation. And of course, I mentioned the work that this club has done with the Windsor STEM Elementary School the last several years. And that's a really important work, making a difference right here in our community. I mention all of those projects, again, because we don't have to imagine, because someone did. Oh, there's one more thing we don't have to imagine. We don't have to imagine that for the first time in Rotary's 117-year history, we have a president who also happens to be a woman. We don't have to imagine that. Some would say it's been a long time coming, but I'm glad to be part of it this year. So, what does that call us to do as we think about imagining Rotary and what to do about that? I'd like to offer 2 things for you today that you can do. These are easy things to do. And the first one is on your table. I've placed flyers for the 125 Club at each of your place settings. The 125 Club, as Ned mentioned, was started 7 years ago as a district fundraising operation for the Rotary Foundation, for the annual fund, which funds, by the way, all of those projects, including the Windsor STEM project, were funded in part by contributions to the Rotary Foundation annual fund. All of those projects. So with your gifts to the Rotary Foundation, we are able to do so much to make a difference in our communities and across the globe. The annual fund is the source of those projects. The 125 Club has $100 that goes to the annual fund for those purposes. That'll fund projects like those. That will fund 2 sewing machines that would allow a woman in Guatemala or elsewhere to do work to support her family. I do mention women in that context with intent, because that is the reality of where these funds where microloans typically go, where the support and assistance for working families goes to the women who are the responsible, unfortunately, the responsible members to make those things happen, and so we're glad to be able to support that. Then $25 to the Polio Plus Fund. That's the 25 of the 125 Club. And that will fund up to 156 doses of the oral vaccine. That's amazing. $25, 156 children who will not have to worry about contracting polio, being paralyzed or dying from that horrible disease. So, we've made it easy this year for you to become a member of the 125 Club. Last year, this club had 15 members who joined the 125 Club. I'd love to, anyone know what a BHAG is? Ever heard of a BHAG? Shed, you have? Yes, big, hairy, audacious goal, a BHAG. Some people say it's not audacious, but another A word, but I like audacious in that context. So my BHAG is to see how many clubs we could get to work to approaching 100% participation in the 125 Club. So we've tried to eliminate all the barriers to that. You can give a check to Scott. Scott will definitely be happy to take your contribution and process that. You can go online to My Rotary and make a contribution directly. You do have to do that as two separate transactions, one to the annual fund and one to the Polio Plus Fund. Or, if you really want to make it easy, take your flyer, take out your phone, scan the QR code. It will take you to a website dedicated for this purpose to our district effort, and you can, in one single transaction, become a member of the 125 Club. Larry's going to kick me if I say it's really easy because Larry gets to do the paperwork on the back end. But we're making it easy for you because we want you to get a 125 Club pin. Dana is a member of the 125 Club pin. She's wearing her pin today. The design of the pin is in the upper left corner of the flyer. Each year, the design looks slightly different. At our district President-elect training seminar, PETS, for our district this year, we sat around tables like this in the afternoon, and all the presidents-elect in their groups designed what they envisioned as the idea for the pin design for this year. And so they all sat around with crayons and markers and paper and brought their designs up, and we put them on the screen, and we voted on which design should be the design for the pin. And this is the design that was chosen by the president. So they own the pin this year. By the way, the group of presidents in the room, they have no artistic talent at all. This pin, half of West Virginia was appropriated by the map that they drew. But we cleaned it up, we fixed it up, and it looks great, right? But this is your opportunity to donate to the 125 Club and to receive your pin. Larry or I or Ned would be delighted to come and present your 125 Club pin to you, and I really hope you will consider that. We envision the 125 Club as being an accessible way for all of us to provide support to the Rotary Foundation. Why? Because of impact. The impact that you hear through those projects that I described, but also because of stewardship. Our foundation is one of the strongest charitable foundations in the world. We have a track record, I think, 14 years of being a 4-star charity on Charity Navigator. 0.1% of charities get to that level. Why? We're careful about your dollars. We are an organization that has its own foundation. We are providing that financial support to our foundation. We administer those funds. We keep down the overhead because we do a lot of the work, the administrative work. So I really encourage you to consider the 125 Club for this year. The second thing I'm asking you to consider is a little more nebulous. All of us have these situations where we fall into doing things because why? Anyone want to say why? Habit. Yeah, because That's the way we always do it. Why do we do this? Well, that's the way we always do it. So we need to do this. And those are, in the Rotary context, we call that the things that get embedded in the Rotary rule book. That doesn't exist, by the way. There is no such thing as the Rotary rule book. But it's this concept of, well, this is the way we do it. We must do it this way, or else we could be, kicked out of Rotary? I don't know. So I'm inviting each of you with Dana this year to try some things differently. Maybe it was the Pies and Pints for polio just last week. Maybe it's a hike at Rocky Fork Creek Country Club that Ned and I both had an opportunity to join Dana and other members of your club a couple of weeks ago. Who knows what else Dana's got up her sleeve this year, but the idea is that we think differently, we think open-mindedly about taking on new opportunities and imagining how rich our Rotary experience can be as a result of that. One of the things that I'm proud of is that this year we created at the district level a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. And that committee is just getting started in its work this year. And I want to emphasize, it's a district level committee. So what we're doing is work at the district level to look at the things that we do and to assess whether they are in fact inclusive. And then to be a resource to clubs if they want to further their own activity in the area of DEI. So, and what I've come to recently understand that it's diversity, equity, and inclusion which leads to belonging. And I think that's really the power of what our efforts to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in Rotary can be. When Paul Harris founded Rotary, he was a lawyer, by the way. Did you know that? He was a really good person. So Paul Harris, I'm imagining, hosted one of the first Rotary clubs at his law office, and they met in a conference room, and they sat at a round table. A round table. It doesn't have a head, it doesn't have a foot, it doesn't have someone who's in charge. It's everyone around the table. And I imagine, like that word, imagine, I imagine that we all in our clubs will be thinking in those ways about who's at the table and who's not at the table and why. And by simply asking those questions, we might attract more people who want to engage in our service above self, in improving the communities where we live and where we work. So that's what I'm imagining. I had a question at another club meeting at the end of my talk. There was an end to the talk, by the way. I had a question about, well, why do we need DEI specifically? We've got the four-way test. And I said, absolutely. And the four-way test can answer all of those questions that we have. The idea behind Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Initiative is to really refine the application of the four-way test when it comes to thinking in those terms and how we can really be truly welcoming to everyone in our community. But that's just a start. I celebrate serving under Jennifer Jones' leadership this year, not only because of that breakthrough that we're experiencing that this year with her leadership as president, but also because of her energy, her focus, her passion, her intelligence, her kindness. I mean, who else could think up this great theme, Imagine Rotary? It's an inspiration to all of us, I think. But it's also a challenge. It's a challenge for us to think differently and to make a difference. When Jennifer introduced the theme back in January, she said, although we all have dreams, acting on them is a choice we make. When an organization like Rotary dreams about big things, like ending polio and creating peace, it becomes our responsibility to make them happen. You don't imagine yesterday, she said, you imagine tomorrow. Imagine a world that deserves our best, where we get up each day knowing we can make a difference. Jennifer Jones said that too, and again, I think that's a call to all of us. So my invitation is for us all to come together this year and to imagine what we can do, not only to improve our communities, but also to lift up our own Rotary experience, and then to make a difference, to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and then perhaps most profoundly in ourselves. As a Rotarian, what do you dare to imagine? Together, we might find a way to make it happen. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions before Price sits down?
Yeah, I have a question. So, District Governor, is there any significance to you visiting our club, particularly on Halloween?
As I said at the beginning, I love being with Rotary clubs, and this is a great club. It not only is our oldest club in this district, Rotary was founded upon the shoulders of those early leaders of the Columbus Rotary. But it's also a great club, and it happens to be Halloween, and I wanted to play the part. I don't know if you saw this, I got my Jonas Salk MD lab coat on here. That was Freudian, wasn't it? But it's great. It's a great opportunity to be with you today. It happened to work out, and it was a lot of fun to be with you.
Thanks for your service to our district and to Rotary.
Thanks, Bill. Steve.
Besides joining the 125 Club, between now and the end of your year, what are some of the other major things you'd like us to and try to accomplish? And what major district events are coming up?
So first of all, I have to tell you that when Steve was going into his year as governor, he had a list of 27 pages of things that he wanted to do during his year as district governor. And those of us who were coming behind him, and we all felt like we were going to be responsible for the implementation of those ideas, said, no, cut it down. You heard my message about why we join and stay in Rotary. So in addition to supporting our Rotary Foundation, my invitation would be to think about who, like you, would benefit from being a part of this great organization, and invite that person. Don't invite them when the district governor is coming to talk at a club meeting. Invite them to a service project or a social event. If they would have come last week, you get a lot of guests, so maybe those are future Rotary members, but that's an opportunity for us not to try to grow for the sake of growth, but to grow because we all believe in the Rotary proposition, and it's an opportunity for us to share that gift with others. That's a big one. Larry, real quick, two things that are coming up. This Saturday, District Awards event at the Hofbrau House. So I don't know if Amanda's going to be able. Is she good? Good. So anyone else who wants to join, it's going to be a great event, and we'd love to have you join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. There is German. I understand there's this German beer that they make there, so you might enjoy that. And then coming up fairly quickly thereafter, February 4th, and I just put that on the calendar yesterday. We're going to have a Rotary Foundation Gala at the brand new Hocking Hills State Park and State Lodge and Conference Center. It is an amazing brand new facility. So that's something to look forward to. And then finally, the district conference, April 28th and 29th. And I'm getting flyers that I'll get back and we'll put on the tables. But April 28th and 29th at the National Veterans Memorial and Museum. It is, if you haven't been there to that facility, it is an amazing place. And we're looking for a Friday and Saturday of fellowship, of inspiration. We're looking at a keynote speaker of a high-ranking military officer to talk to us. We're going to have guided tours of the facility, and what do we do in Rotary? We're going to have a lot of fun. So put that on your calendars. Save the date, April 28th and 29th. Is that it? Larry, sorry.
Most of us are not part of leadership at the district level. I imagine club expansion, but I also would like to know what the district deals with on an annual basis relative to expansion into the Latino community, into the African American community. What, if any, plans does the district have to sponsor a new club someplace in our district? And, you know, I mean, we used to have several, when I first joined, African American ministers in this club. All those folks decided, for whatever reason, not to continue. I would imagine, I could imagine, that we could start a club in the African American community. And that has potential, okay? So expansion is not just within existing clubs, it's adding clubs.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. I don't think it's us starting a club. I think it is telling our Rotary story in communities throughout the Central Ohio area and hoping that they would join us in an effort to become part of Rotary. And I think there's a subtle but hopefully noticeable distinction in that this club has obviously a long track record of establishing other Rotary clubs. And I invite you, I mean, particularly in the Linden area where there's been a lot of activity by this club to look for how you can engage the members of that community to maybe think about the benefits of being part of Rotary. You know, we're looking, and we've got Steve Heiser, one of his other titles is our Innovative Club Advocate. And so Steve's looking at and trying to help clubs or communities that want to have a different or a new Rotary Club experience. And we were just successful in chartering the Kokosing Valley Rotary Club in Knox County just within the last 2 months. Actually, Steve and I are going down or up for their chartering event in a couple of weeks. And so they're really excited about what's going on. But it's driven by local people who say, I believe in what Rotary stands for, and I want our community to have a Rotary Club. So those are the opportunities. There are also, I'm just going to be honest with you, there are challenges. We've got a couple of clubs in our district that are really on the brink, and COVID has not been our friend. So we are working to try to help them reconnect in their communities. Thanks for the question. Tom.
I'd just like to add a little bit, love your question, Larry. Something I found out years ago in home office, there's a thing called the Rotary Community Corps. And those are members in the community that work with Rotary on projects, but they're not Rotarians. And informally, we probably have 40 or 50 people at the Corps working with us that are not Rotarians with their community corps. And with Nancy Truck's leadership and all, we've invited some of them to come in and be part of our peace committee. Let's go to your neighborhood first, then come on in and join a committee. You don't have to be a Rotarian to join a committee and all. And then they say, I didn't know Rotary was doing all that. And then it begins to start being a pipeline.
Right.
So that's just another way to do from the ground up.
Yep.
You know, looking at that.
Thank you, Tom.
And how do we then build that bridge where they join and they stay? Okay.
Yep. Thank you very much. I'm not going to respond to that. It was a great statement. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Price. That was awesome.